So today I want to talk about how to naturally reduce stress by understanding stressful thoughts, or really maybe understanding that that's where stress actually comes from. I think for me, having burnt out not so many years ago, I see that this is an absolutely powerful thing to understand about stress. But it's not the story that's out there in the world, is it? The story is that stress is an outside thing, that it comes from the outside world, it comes from our work, fundamentally a lot of the time. It can come from our relationships, it can come from all sorts of things out there. And, you know, it's really funny because, well, maybe not so funny, but when I talk about being a primary school head teacher, and that was the job I was doing when I burnt out, people will often say, oh, no wonder, teaching's very stressful. And fundamentally that's probably how I saw it maybe at the time. But even back then, I think I could see that it wasn't really my job that was the issue. It was my behaviour in the rest of my life. Work was actually a place where I really liked being, and I loved my job, and I loved what I was doing with my job. And if you'd have asked me, do you feel stressed? Probably would have told you no, even the day before I actually walked out of work and never went back, which is bizarre and ironic, I guess. So, of course, there are some professions that are labelled as being stressful, and we're not going to use this conversation as some kind of spiritual bypass. We're not going to say, no, you know, it's absolutely fine that one person is trying to do three people's jobs. It's absolutely fine that people are working 70-hour weeks. It's absolutely fine that underfunded government bodies have people just working ridiculous hours in order to keep things going at all. This is not where we're going with this. However, where we are going is to start to see the role that thought plays in this. That really, thought plays a massive part in it. And one of the examples I often use in some of the training that I do, you know, I work with individuals, but sometimes I do things in businesses, that one of the things I often talk about is that kind of how we feel on a Friday afternoon and a Sunday evening. So a lot of people talk, don't they, about the Sunday night feeling because we've got to go back to work on a Monday, and how we can really start to feel quite stressed and not sleep on a Sunday night because we're thinking about work. And that's the key, that's the noticing. It's not because you're at work, it's not because you're really doing that job that you've got to do tomorrow on Monday. It's that you're thinking tricky thoughts about it. You know, thoughts like, oh, it's going to take me hours, I've got so many other things to do, I actually don't really feel capable. Like, that can come up a lot if you've got a bit of that old imposter syndrome and inner critical voice going on. That it can feel like that too. And I'm just going to walk back this way, because otherwise I'm going to be walking through the conversation of some dog owners, and I don't really want to disturb them or have them on my videos. We'll walk back this way a bit. So that's the sort of Sunday night. We don't sleep. Our mind is racing. We're on a train of thought, aren't we, about work on Monday? We're on some kind of thinking pattern about that, and it will be different for everybody, but also very similar, I think, especially for us high achieving Gen Xers. You know, there's those thoughts about not doing it right and getting it wrong, and the perfectionism thoughts and the inner critical thoughts and all those kind of things going on. And so we start to feel really terrible. We start to feel stressed. We start to feel that in our body. And ironically, that's the actual gift. The gift is the feeling in the body, because the feeling in the body is saying, ooh, your thinking's a little bit out of kilter right now. And that's a gift. You know, I talk about that an awful lot, how the emotion is the gift, really. And then the flip side of that is that on a Friday afternoon, and as a teacher, particularly on the Friday afternoon when you're breaking up from school, you can be doing exactly the same job. You're doing the same job. You're doing that job that you always do, but your mind is starting to drift. Your mind is starting to drift off into the weekend. Your mind is starting to think about the weekend, and so you start to feel more relaxed in that job. You feel more at ease. You feel more comfortable. You kind of think, oh, it's all right, this job, it's not that bad, you know. And that's because you're focusing on the job that you're doing, but in the meantime, every so often there's nice thoughts about what you're going to do at the weekend, or the fact that it's a 6-week holiday, or a week's holiday, or a 2-week holiday, and you start to just feel differently. And that's because you're on a different train of thought. You're not in a worrying train of thought, you're in a train of thought about the weekend. And that feels good, doesn't it? You know, who doesn't like to think about holidays and weekends? We all love it, don't we? So there you can start to see, oh wow, yeah, okay. When I think a lot about work, and I think about the pressures, and I think about my inability to do my job, etc. Yes, I feel terrible on a Sunday night, and then when it's moving towards the weekend, I'm thinking about the weekend and thinking about what fun I'm going to have. I feel less pressured, less pressurised thinking, and I don't feel so stressed. So that's a really cool place to see this, is to see it as, you know, to see it in your own life. And that's always the invitation really with this, is where can you see this in your own life? You know, where can you see this this playing out in your own life? And I invite you to explore that. And what's really interesting is that what then happens is your behaviour starts to change. So I've just been talking to a client today, and she was talking about how now, after our conversations, she starts shutting down her work at 5:30. Her plan is to leave at 6. And what used to be happening was that she had a lot of thinking about trying to get things finished, and only feeling good enough if she got all those things finished, and, you know, all that pressure. And so she'd be still sat there at 6:05 finishing off work, when really she was supposed to leave work at 6 o'clock. And she's just, since seeing those trains of thought as being unhelpful about having to get things finished, when in actual fact you don't ever have to get anything finished, really, she's just behaving in a different way. It's absolutely fantastic to see. And so she starts tidying up at 5:30. She starts finishing off the bit that she's typing. She closes the things down. She shuts all the computer down, and then she has sort of 10-15 minutes at the end of the day before she's due to leave at 6, when she just, you know, says goodbye to the staff, has a little chat to them, maybe goes and wanders around the workplace. She just has this kind of time, you know, this sort of chilled out time at the end of the day. And also what's happening is that that's creating this very clear boundary between work and home. She's not carrying, you know, she actually said, I'm shutting down mentally. I'm shutting down at the end of the day. Now that has only happened because she is seeing herself and her role differently. She's seeing that when she used to try and rush till the end of the day, there were trains of thought there that were A, leading her to do that, but B, that she was then carrying with her home in the evening, and finding it difficult to settle, to enjoy her evening with her family, particularly with a young son. And what she's noticing, you know, there's knock-on effects to this. So she has time to listen to him read instead of driving to school early and then listening to him read in the car. This whole thing has, you know, just seeing this train of thought, seeing this way of seeing things differently, has completely transformed this person's life. And nothing has changed. She's still doing the same job. She's still got the same home life. But she's noticing more and more those trains of thought that take her into unhelpful patterns of emotion and of behaviour. And that's real transformation. And that will not shift. Like, that's permanent transformation. How amazing is that? And all through seeing it differently, all through perspective shift. Because as I keep saying, perspective shift is the crux of it. That is where the power is. And the natural consequence of that is just a more mindful life. You know, a life where we are present to what we are doing now, that's actually real, to be solved. Like, yes, there's still work to do. Yes, there are still things to resolve and sort out. But when we are not thinking about them a lot, we feel more calm and we just do the thing that needs doing without the stories. We don't need the stories. It's like, I don't know, like maybe we learnt the stories because at some point, well, of course, because at some point they kept us safe, you know, trying to make ourselves do things by continually thinking about them. It's just not helpful. So I hope that's useful in just seeing how these perspective shifts can change everything, and then seeing, you know, that it's stressful thinking that's the issue, not the world out there, because none of our feelings come from the world out there. So we've reached the noisy road, and it's a good point for me to stop talking to you so that I can cross the road really safely. Take care, lots of love, and please do keep checking in with these videos, and let me know if you want to talk. Take care, bye.